practice today. We'll get out, and a lot of what you seen last week, you got a chance to get involved in. Some of the teamwork, our group style, our individual stuff. We got a high school coaches clinic going on today, so there'll be a bunch of people you don't recognize. They're part of the high school coaching clinic. We'll get a chance to talk to those guys. A couple of our coaches get a chance to talk with those guys, and usually I get a chance to step in and see them. Always exciting to be able to get those guys in the building and be able to let those guys watch practice and be a part of some of the meeting, things of that nature. And with that, open up for you guys.
I know it's voluntary, but I just want to ask you about some, kind of attendance. Happy with everything so far? How things are going with that?
I am, really excited with the guys that all come here and the effort and the work that we're going to get out of it. Really teaching these days as player education days and why you do things. So to have the ability to get your guys up there, whether it be Foul or whether it be, John Griffin and all those type of different guys that go up and talk to the team about, the reason behind how we train, what we train for, what the messaging is, what we want to get done, what we want to get accomplished. It's really worked out well for those guys in the player education. I just feel like you get a better grasp of, why things are happening when you tell those guys that way, and those guys do such a nice job.
We didn't see Kyle out there this last week.
Yeah, extremely cautious with Kyle right now and what he's got going on. Obviously, you don't talk about injuries this time of year, but definitely being cautious with him. So you won't see him. He's been here. He's done such a great job of all the stuff that we've asked him. He's been in every single meeting. He's been in every single thing that we've done other than the field. And he's been absolutely outstanding to be around and all that we've done out in that area. But we're going to be extremely cautious in him. We had a couple people like that, but we don't have them out there that we're extremely cautious with, that we know are here and have been a part of everything, and just not the grass.
It's a foot?
I'm going to tell you that right now.
Okay, that's okay.
It's an injury.
Bijan Robinson, we saw last year he made great strides, and really he became one of the best running backs in the league. Going into year 3 now, what are you looking for him to do? Do you want him to be more of a leader? Like, what do you need out of Bijan Robinson in 2025?
It's hard to say what you need out of him. We talked about last week, I believe, on some of the stuff that he wants to do, and I think it was, in his own words, is some of the leadership things that he wants to bring out. In his own words, and for us, we just need Bijan to be the best version of himself. Is really good. When we talk about Bijan, and so what he's done a nice job of forming it in his room first with him and Tyler. Being kind of the senior leadership in there, and really getting guys like Carlos and Jace and those guys to buy into what they bring into the package every single day. And that was kind of spilled outside of his room and going into really the offense and what they do, and being able to help Mike in communication and being able to support Mike in every single way. And it's even going further than that to him really getting closer to his coaches, including me. Right, we were able to go to a boxing event together. We were able to do different things off the field. He's come by my house. He's seen my son. He's met my children. All those type of different things. And to watch him do that with his teammates, to watch him do that with his coaches, I think it's just something special in his character that just makes it like one of those things that you just can't say enough positive things about each other.
You guys went to the Tank Davis fight.
We did.
Didn't get my invite ever.
No, my bad. I'm sorry. It was
what was that
last minute. It was last minute.
You guys hung out. You guys sat together.
We did, man. We got a chance to fly into town together, and we got a chance to actually go watch it and
nice.
Be a part of that and see that stuff together. You got a chance to meet some of my lifelong friends, and fit right in, and was able to be around a bunch of old people and watch the fight and have a bunch of fun.
He's an old soul.
Yes, he really is an old soul, particularly with music.
Raheem, we got a chance to see Divine Diablo out there on the field last week. What's kind of the vision for him in this defense at that linebacker spot?
He's playing inside linebacker. I know people have a lot of questions about that because of his size, his length, his stature. He can do a lot of different things. He's a giant. He can run. He's done a lot of really good things playing inside linebacker for us right now. It has been really fun to watch those guys go out there and compete. Obviously, him and JD and Ellis and all those guys, Woods, all those guys going out there competing right now that's able to practice at the inside linebacker position. We have some people out like a Troy and some of those type of guys, but it really fires you up adding the depth that we've been able to add at the inside linebacker position in this offseason, whether it be in Divine or whether it been our rookie class from last year in JD, and get a chance to watch Ellis grow into what he's grown into. And then, obviously we can move Jalen Walker to do a couple things there as well. So watching those guys go out and practice right now has been fun. And he's done such a nice job of giving us some depth and really creating some real sense of urgency for everybody and that competitive nature in that room, which is nice, always nice to have.
How has it been with Jalen now that you see him competing with the veterans?
Jalen
Walker.
I got a couple of Jalen's.
Sorry, Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker's been absolutely awesome. It's hard to say to compete with the veterans right now just because of the phase we're at, right? It's not really highly competitive. It's more like learning what to do. You're able to go out there. There's no real physicality involved in it, but to watch his urgency and how he practices, his attention to detail. He knows how to practice at a very high level. He wants to get better and better every single day, and he seems like he does. Like he's a instant coach. You know, he's like grits, man. Like you just tell him something, and he does it the first time every single time. He like goes out and is able to get that stuff done. So that stuff has been absolutely amazing and awesome with him, and I look forward really with all those guys, but particularly him. He's very easy to coach.
In saying that, do you have to tell the rookies and the young players like to slow it down? Do they go extra hard?
100%. You gotta train these guys how you practice in the National Football League and in the different phases and the different walks of life, right? And the OTA days is always the hardest one to do, right? You just want to get in there and show what you want to do, and those guys want to go fast. They don't know how to, absolutely do it at first, but you got to teach them. There's a couple different reasons you got to teach them, because there's going to be times during the season where you can't go full practices. As we all know, with Thursday games, you got to have job throughs. You got to be able to go out there and find ways to get better at different tempos, and that's a part of what's going on right now with the player education and how they practice, how you slow it down, how you work together. Nobody wants to see one guy going full speed, one guy kind of going at the correct tempo and not looking how you supposedly want to look. So it's finding a happy medium for all those guys to figure out how we practice, how we move, how we do our things, and how we go about our business. So that's been fun with all the rookies.
It looked like last week that James Pierce wasn't participating in the team 11-on-11 aspect of practice. What went into that decision, and will he be incorporated today?
He was incorporated last week as well. The last time you guys were out there in the full capacity, he did not go with the whole full group. We had him on the side, ramping him up, as we call it. When we get him in here, we want to get everybody to a certain spot we want to be before we get them out there in practice, right? We don't like to just throw people in the drills. So, like, for example, when a guy has a miss or something, we may ramp him back into it to make sure we're not missing any steps. And he was one of the things we were ramping him up, and we got him going to the team, last week when you guys were not around, which was really good for him. And then we got a chance to get back into it today. So you'll see him out there today on team period.
You talked a little bit about how you get players from the off-season physically to being ready for a game. How about mentally? How do you get a player from an off-season mentality to an in-game mentality?
That's the greatest part of the offseason, right? That's where you really make your strides. Right now, teaching them in the system, really embracing them into our culture, really having the ability how we learn, finding the different learning styles. We got a couple different ways to do those. We got videos, we got coaches, we got individual coaching. You got a certain time frame you got to do those things in, but video's always there. And then teaching them like different situational parts of the game, teaching them how you should look at these parts of the game differently. Like, I think all those things are happening. That's why you got so many coaches. That's why you got 67 coaches on every staff now, right? Because you want to be able to reach everybody in every different way. And I think that's a big part of the off season for us, is teaching them those ways. And then you have people to go to. Like, you'll have a certain amount of people migrate to Lance. There will be people that migrate to Jerry Gray. There will be people that go to Rudy on defense. Same thing on offense, whether it's DJ, whether it's TJ, whether it's Zach himself. All those different ways. And then there's guys that come to me about whatever the case may be, or same thing on special teams with Marquise and King. So you want to have different teaching styles. You want to have different ways to get it to them. And it's a big part of the mental part of it, of getting them ready. And then all the other things, the mental part that you got to be able to focus on and talk about, and you got to be able to simulate for them and tell them what's going to happen, what it's going to look like. Those are all the things we talked about, our mental health and how we want to be able to handle those things as well. So I think all of these things is a learning part, and learning education that we talked about with our player education is a big part for us.
Is there a different challenge for rookies getting them mentally prepared than it is for veterans?
There certainly is, man. There's adjustment to speed. There's hearing some of the stories. There's telling those guys to latch on to some of the vets that's went through it. And usually I tell those guys to talk to a vet that's been in it for a long time. Talk to Jake Matthews, who's been in it forever, right? And find out what his process is. And then, talk to somebody who just did it last year, whether you're talking about, Dorless, or you're talking about Root, and find out what was the biggest learning curve for those guys, and be able to come somewhere in the middle to kind of find your working spot and where you want to go and what works best for you. So, those guys have been able to do that. This team is extremely compliant with each other. I think we shock a lot of people when they first get here on how they work together and how they want to get each other better. And it's been really nice to see.
On that note, have you seen any specific veterans kind of mentoring any specific rookies or younger guys?
You got such a array of different people on this team, whether it's been Ellis and not a rookie, but new guy, being able to be around Divine, which we just talked about, which is really cool to see when those guys communicate and how those guys talk. Or whether you're talking about whether it's AJ Terrell being able to communicate with James Pierce, for example, because of some of the similarities that they have in background, some of the similarities they have in people, some of the similarities they have in quiet but like to get their work done, some of those type of things. Then you got Jalen Walker, who's got like this more outgoing demeanor, and he has definitely, lean more towards Jesse Bates or even, his rookie class and the things they lean into. So like, to be able to see those different examples across the board from all of our guys, all of our rookies. Why? Being a very quiet leader, demeanor leader, just a certain style like a Fuller who got some experience at different places. And I see all those guys kind of talking and working together and communicating. It's been fun. And then Billy Bowman, he brings a certain type of leadership style of his own. And you can tell he is watching, he's learning, he's grasping from everybody, whether it be Clark or whether it be Jesse or whether it be anybody from his room or outside of his room. You can just tell he has a certain mentality that he wants to get better. So like, they've been a lot of fun to watch. They've been a lot of fun to watch those guys form those relationships, and that's what this time of year is about.
Raheem, do you as coaches try to facilitate those relationships and
I
be
don't
more-
as much.
No,
I hate
you
to
let
cut
them
you
happen
off.
organically.
I've been around where you try to do that, like, I may suggest it to a guy who I think got similar personalities, like the AJ and James Pierce. That was definitely something that I suggested because they remind me, they're a different position, obviously, different body type, all that type of stuff, but the personalities, demeanors, like I remember AJ came in, was just a really serious rookie when I had him, and James is a really serious rookie. You're gonna be hard pressed to get a smile out of him until he knows you, right? And like, I kind of thought they had similar traits and similar things that I felt like, hey, that'd be a nice guy for you to kind of talk to. I may put their lockers conveniently close enough together so that happens organically, but I try to let those things happen naturally. I think those things kind of come out and they kind of happen that way usually anyway. You really can't force those relationships. I think those things are best let to happen the natural, organic way.
How often do you kind of utilize that locker room placement strategy? Because I mean, Penix and Bates were next to each other last year, and I don't believe that was any kind of coincidence.
It wasn't. It's just those kind of things, right? You want to have, from different sides of the ball to be able to get those relationships. And then, for Penix, it was more like, this is what a pro looks like. I know you got one in your room, you have one in your room, but like, here's another pro from a different side of the ball that you probably didn't even know moved this way. And it's just like, always things that you can do for people and that they can see to help them be the best version of themselves.
How much of it is that, but do you do other kind of like team building activities that we don't see on the field, obviously?
I think our whole program is set up in a kind of a team building way. We've had different events in my house. We've had different events off the field with our guys. Mooney is probably one of the biggest proponents of getting people together outside of the building on our football team. You let those guys kind of do that, and that's been awesome. I can tell you right now, Leonard Floyd is taking people out to lunch and done different things with those guys. So like, you got a bunch of different guys, and it's a part of our ethos that you don't have to kind of force those things. You don't have to tell people to do it. They kind of naturally do it, right? And you got to give the people that bring the guys in our building a lot of credit. I speak about this all the time, but Terry Fontenot and his group and everything that they do, they bring the right people in here with the right ethos, that happens kind of naturally. It's kind of like I talk about when we talk about identity. I say, that's got to be formed by the guys. And you let them form, right? You got to let it form. It forms every single year, and it may be a little bit different, but it'll have a lot of the same similar core values.
You had mentioned in April and Palm that I want to say, I asked you about last year's class. You said that players improve the most year one, year two. Mm-hmm. Historically, why is that, do you feel like?
I feel like all the things we just talked about, finding a routine, getting a rhythm, and there are a million examples of guys who come in and flourish right from the beginning, right? We can talk about that, but definitely there is either a drop off or there is just a huge growth process for these guys. And in order to help that growth process is about establishing that rhythm and routine that you can put together for yourself when you become that adult, right? That rookie season, man, it's pretty easy to have a routine when everybody's telling you what to do every second of the day up until 7 o'clock till you're absolutely exhausted and you want to get something to eat and go to bed, right? That's easy. That second year, when things start to happen and you're done at 1, 2 o'clock during the day, and now you got to make decisions on, grown man decisions on maintenance to the body. What are we going to do extra on my own? How much studying am I going to do by myself? How can I get those things done? So I think a major part of that is guys really figuring out a routine before they get there and left to their own accord.
When you look at Rook, where's kind of that next step for him and Brandon?
I think it's really going to happen in training camp for those guys. I think they have absolutely attacked this part of it. And right, that is establishing body armor, establishing, that they can run all day, establishing ownership of this part of the defense that we put in thus far. And really, the next part for them is getting to the physicality part of our game, which will happen, in about 8 weeks from now. What is it, 7, 8, whatever, somewhere around there.
You mentioned the willingness to get better from the rookie class. When did you first notice that quality about them?
Immediately throughout the process of the draft, right? That was what we talked about. It was kind of the things that we talk about within the framework of our own groups. Our scouts that go out, they do such a great job of really coming back and provide us such detailed information. Anything that we don't get or need more, we're able to have the ability to go out and sort out more information. Or when we bring these guys in on their visits and really sit down with them and kind of have those candid conversations and talking to them about those things. And like, we just looking for obsessed people, whether it be coaching, whether it be playing, whether it be personnel department, or really all walks of life in our building, of everybody being obsessed about being the very best. And like, that's just what we're trying to do right now, is find obsessed people that want to go out there and find a way to be best.
Any specific moment that stands out with any of them?
I think they're all different. You know, some of them, Jalen Walker, for example, since we brought him up, you can see it when he walks in the building. He's sitting there talking with Terry Fontenot and his son for hours with no blink, no hesitation, or whatever. And then there's others where it happens, you know, at a different, a slower rate. And when you talk to more and more people, you find out who they really are as a person. And I think those are the ones that you really take pride in as a coach or a personnel person going out and finding.
As you've gotten to know Drake over the last year, coached him, I mean, what kind of qualities would you say stood out most to you?
Hey, Drake is a really funny one because he comes across as this really nice, just, you know, calm demeanored human, and he is absolutely the opposite when it comes to football. He is a barnyard bully. He's a dog. He's a high-level competitor. You better get your coaching and your information to him during the week, because when the lights come on, it's time to play football, and he's going to go. And I absolutely love that about him. And he finds quality in people on our football team that he absolutely magnetizes to have that type of demeanor. There'll be a lot of things that you got to correct out the game from Drake, because he's going to go dark. And he has a darkness about him that I love, and I think his teammates appreciate.
I noticed the DBs were doing this drill with yoga balls.
Yes.
At rookie camp and last week. I didn't remember that last year. Is that a Coach Rudy thing, and where does that come from?
I don't know exactly what it's from. It's probably our performance team more than likely. Our guys do such a great job of really finding outside the box things to strengthen whatever you're trying to strengthen. I know our O-line is huge into it, as you guys have seen. They go round, they'll do core exercises, and like, I don't think you can ever do enough of those things, and I think our guys do a nice job of finding information for these guys to go out and try and really attack. And like I said enough, Griff, Nelly, you know, all of these guys, man, they give them stuff. Paul, they give them stuff every single, Eric, they put them out there every day. Robert Torres, they put them out there every day and try to find ways to get them better. And anything that these guys feel like is going to make them better, again, leadership of the Bates, it's going to trickle down through the other guys within that group.
Well, you know what the utility of that is, the yoga ball?
I'm sure it's the core exercises and things of that nature. And I can get those, you know, I'm sure Bassett will put Nelly in front of you.
You weren't doing that at Hofstra?
Absolutely not. There's no yoga, nothing going on with my life. Have you seen me stretch?
Raheem, we were talking to Mike Penix last week, of course, and he was talking about how he was throwing with Kyle, say looked good, so a little bit this offseason. I know that he had a conversation with Drake at the end of that Panthers game at the end of the year, saying that they're going to do that kind of thing. Do you have, did you keep up with that at all, or do they inform you about the things that they're doing at all?
You do keep up with it, but it's less keeping up, but it's really at your end of the season evaluations when you talk about those things. And Mike's done a great job of connecting that way and seeking out information on what it should look like from the people that he feels like he can talk to. And I think those things have been awesome. So I know for a fact that Mike's thrown personally with Drake, he's thrown with Kyle, he's thrown with Mooney, he's thrown with all those guys. Ray's always ready to spin. You know, those kind of guys, that's kind of where they live. So like, I think that'll just get better and better as Mike matures and develops and gets older and finds more of his voice. And I think part of him doing that stuff is really just seeking information, talking about it with his coaches, using his sources that he has available to him based on our organization, where he's been, everything else. And like, he's definitely utilized that to the highest capacity.
A little offbeat, but how important is it for you guys to have something like the coaching clinic here during, it's kind of cool.
I don't think it's offbeat. I think this is absolutely outstanding for us to, you know, dive deep into our community service and what we owe to the game of football. You know, the game of football has given us all so much that when you got a chance to give back, particularly with youth football or high school coaching or whatever the case may be, it's just something that you want to fully invest in and dive into at the highest level. And I think our coaches all embrace that. Our organization definitely embraces it, and it's something that we'll continue to do. I mean, long after I'm gone, I can tell you that much, because that's just who we are.
Training camp is still a ways away, but some teams have announced their joint practices. I was wondering if the Falcons are looking to do that again this year.
We are. We have one set up 2 practices with the same team in Tennessee. So week 2 of our preseason, we'll have joint practices here. And it should be really exciting and fun for us to watch. I actually talked to the Cal today and just having a conversation about some of those type of things of different natures. And we'll continue to do that, as long as we can.
All right, thanks everyone.